That's it. That's all you gotta do. You can have instant expansion battery capacity. No need to buy the expensive ones from EcoFlow. Now you can just use a cable and as many server rack batteries as you want, or technically really any 51.2 volt nominal lithium iron phosphate battery. Isn't that pretty cool? No need to like cobble together your own, which I've done and I'll show you. Yeah, you don't have to do that anymore. You can just buy this cable and you're good to go. Alrighty, there you go. That is pretty much it. The WattCycle battery expansion cable. So normally these are, the website says that they're 59 inches long. Mine's a little bit shorter. Mine was probably one of the demo units because I have had this for a while. I just haven't had time to mess with it. But anyway, one side we have the XT150, the other side we have some ring terminals. We have the super flexible 8-gauge wire, and then on the inside there's a couple of pins in there which match up to the EcoFlow portable power station. If you ohm those out, it's around 1,000 ohms, and what that does is it tricks the EcoFlow portable power station into thinking that there is an expansion battery connected, because if you try to measure the battery voltage on the back here, you won't get anything, and that's basically for safety reasons, just so people don't try to connect up, you know, like the incorrect battery or, you know, just something random back there. You know, these are not live. You can't damage the unit. But if you use the correct cable, now you can have an instant battery expansion right there, and you can go as big as you want. But you're kind of limited to a couple of the EcoFlow portable power stations. On the website, they're showing the Delta 2, the 2 Max, the Delta 3, and the 3 Plus, which is what this is right here, and the Wave 3, which is like their air conditioning, which I do not have. All I really have is this one right here. So again, what I would recommend first is hooking up your ring terminals over to your batteries over here. Make sure your breaker's off. What I would do is basically charge both of them up to 100% state of charge, which I have already done. For this little guy right over here, I'm just gonna hook up one battery and we'll test it that way. And then for my other example that we're gonna try, I'll hook up both batteries and we'll see what happens. I would hook this up over here first. Make sure your circuit breaker is in the off position because your cables obviously do not have a circuit breaker installed in them. You know, like an extra safety device, which I don't really necessarily think that you need, as long as you hook everything up in this order first. We'll tighten those down, and then we will plug this guy right back in there, and I'll turn him around, make sure the screen is on. Okay, and then I'm just gonna flip on my breaker, and that's literally all you have to do. So I'm just gonna plug in this space heater right over here. We'll plug that in and I'll just blast it on high. So we're using 1500 watts over here. If I zoom in over here, hopefully you can see it right up here in the top corner. We're drawing 26.2 amps. And if we do 26.2 times 52.31, we're gonna get a total of 1,372 watts. That's how much is being drawn from this battery, and then the remainder is going to be being drawn from the EcoFlow unit right over here, which is like 250 watts. All right, well there you go. That's how it works. We have an instant expansion battery, which we can make as large as we want. And whenever you cycle this, you know, charge and discharge, your percentage over here might be a little bit different than what shows up over here, but it's all going to kind of equal out at the end. So at the very, very bottom, it'll equal out, and then at the very, very top, it'll equal out. Yeah, if I look on here, this is showing 97, this is showing 96%. So it is kind of close, but I would imagine the further we get down, the further they will drift. But that's okay, because if this shows like 5% left and this still has like 20% left, it's gonna keep on going until they both bottom out. Same thing for the charge, which I am going to plug the charger into it right now, and we'll see how that goes. Boom, here's my app. It's showing 96%. We're doing 200 watts over here. I'm gonna see if I can bump that up a little bit. Yeah, I can go all the way up to 1500. Boom, there we go. We're starting to go up, just under 1600, okay? So same thing right over here. You're not gonna be able to see it very well, but we're doing 21.3 amps. But wait, there's more. I wanna try something else that I haven't seen on anybody else's videos. I would like to know, what if you have a Delta 3 Pro? We're gonna try that. Now what I wanna know is, yeah, it works fine and dandy with this little guy right over here, but what if you have the Delta 3 Pro? Can it work with this right here? Now right off the bat, it's not gonna work because it does not have the XT150 right here. However, there might be a workaround for that, which we are going to try for the very first time. I've never used this before, and this is the ECOFLOW Delta Pro to Smart Generator Adapter. All right, so if you've never seen one of these before, this is what it looks like. So you got the 4 prongs on the back side, which matches the Delta Pro over there. On this side, we open up the little tiny flap, and we have the XT150 right inside. And basically what I got this for originally was to use the ECOFLOW alternator charger, throw that in my chuck, and then I wanted this right here so I could plug this into it and charge this up and use this while I was away. Actually, that charger alternator is sitting right back there. So this is like a handy dandy workaround, possibly. That's what we're gonna try right now. So we don't have to be kind of limited to the smaller guys. We can maybe use it on the bigger guys right here. So this is like a 1800 watt inverter, and this is a 4000 watt inverter. Plus, you can do 240 on it on the front. I just went ahead and hooked up the batteries real quick. So both of these are in parallel right here. And then I have the WattCycle expansion cable right here hooked up from corner to corner so we can pull equally from these 2 batteries. Both circuit breakers are turned off right now, and again, I would always install the cables onto the batteries first and then hook up this side next. Alrighty, on the back we actually have 2 battery expansion ports. I'm just gonna grab the bottom one right here, and we will plug the smart generator adapter in, and that's pretty much it. We're gonna go ahead and plug this in as well. Here we go. All right, all we have to do now is flip on the breakers. Now, since my cables are a little bit shorter, I can't really get everything in view, but it should be in view enough just in case something happens. All right, here we go. 1 breaker, 2 breaker. All right, well, it didn't blow up, so let's test it out. I'm gonna plug in that space heater again. We'll just go ahead and do that one first. Boom, showing 1440 watts on here. On this battery up here, we're doing 8.6 amps, and this one we're doing 15 amps. Now, keep in mind, I didn't fully 100% charge these up. I just got them close, okay? So as long as we were close, everything will be just fine. That's why it's off just a little bit. But I can zoom in just a little bit if you want to see it. Again, 9 amps right there, got 14.6. So they're actually starting to equal themselves out. So nice, this is actually working. I'm actually gonna plug in the little plus right over here and finish charging that up. All right, so little guy is plugged into big guy. He's doing 917 watts. We're drawing a total of 2383 watts. If we take a look at the amp meter, that is 35 amps total. Top battery is doing 15.8. and then the lower battery is doing 18.5. So they're starting to balance each other out. Okay, I'm gonna find something else to plug in here so we can get this closer to 4,000 watts. And maybe the cable's around 50 amps. I do have another heater down here. Okay, so I have another heater down here. So we have that heater, a heater underneath there, and we have little guy plugged into big guy. We're doing 3,800 watts. If we take a look at this one, we're actually doing 52 to 53 amps, which is slightly over than the rated 50 amps that they have it set at. Just keep that in mind. We're doing something that they don't recommend, and it wasn't on their list. We're just trying some stuff out. But anyway, if we take a look at the batteries right up here, this one is doing 25.2 amps. and this one is doing 26.9. I think what I'm going to do is just let this run for a little bit to make sure nothing gets too hot or anything like that, and I will report back.
You saw this coming, right? Good.
All right, if you know me, you should have seen this coming. So instead of wasting everything in a couple of heaters and heat, I brought everything over here so we can basically dump all of that battery capacity into my battery banks over here, and that's exactly what we're doing right now. So I have both batteries in parallel right there, and we're plugged into that smart generator port right up here. On the front, we are coming out of the 240 volt outlet, the L1430, and we are going to the EG4 charge inverter right here. I have this set on 65 amps if it'll show up, and that equates to 3,738 watts, and that equals right at 50 amps. So basically what the cables are rated for right now, or what they have them set to be rated for. So I'm just going to basically let this go all the way down to 0% state of charge, just to make sure those cables can handle what they say it can handle. Time now is 4:14 p.m. It's going to take a couple hours for this to drain down, and once it does, I'll be right back. All right, quick little update. Time now is 5:54 p.m. We're still drawing the 65 amps on there. Pulling 3,778 watts. We're showing 29% over here. If we pop in over here, this top battery is doing 28.4 amps, showing 46% state of charge, and the lower one looks pretty much the same. And then if we pop back on the clamp meter, we're doing 58, a little over 58 amps. I will put my hand on here and it is barely warm at all. So it's probably like 98 degrees. So good on that right there. So the main difference right now is 46% state of charge versus 29% state of charge. I actually just had to go turn on the dryer and the water heater and the air conditioning to draw down the battery because we're at 99% state of charge. We still have a little solar coming in, plus I'm dumping all that battery capacity into all of these batteries over here. All right, time is 7:18. Still have it on 65 amps. We're showing 4% over here, 3,670 watts, 17 minutes. If we go over here to these batteries, we're showing 38 amps up here, 1% state of charge, and this one down here basically shows the exact same thing. If we back up to this meter right here, we're doing basically 77 amps, and I would imagine it's been doing that for quite a while. And just FYI, I can grab onto this really tight and it is not hot at all. It's just slightly warm, so it's probably, I don't know, 100 degrees. So running it at 77 amps is no problem whatsoever. So yeah, this is working out fan-freaking-tastic. All right, just missed it a few minutes later. So the batteries have basically 0% state of charge, and this is basically shut off completely. Boom, there we go, 0% state of charge. Hit that one. There we go. 0%. All right, let me get these charged back up and we'll make sure they end at 100%. Just a quick little update at 12:30 at night. We're at 25% over here. And if we go over to these guys right here, we're sitting at 24% on that one and 24% on that one. And we're only recharging at 800 watts. So it does track whenever you're going at a lower rate. So that's kind of nice to know. All right, Sasha, guess what? We're at 100% down here, and both batteries are at 100% state of charge as well. So there you go. If you discharge it down to 0% state of charge, both batteries and power station will be pretty much equal at the bottom, and whenever you recharge them, they will both end at 100%.
Nice.
All right, there's one more thing I was going to mention real quick is whenever you are using this cable connected up to either one of these, in the app, is it going to show you that you have an expansion battery connected? The answer is no. The reason is whenever you get like the EcoFlow expansion batteries, the cable that they use is going to have communication with them. This cable doesn't have any communication. If it had communications, you know, we would be connecting up to the communication port over here. And if we look in the app, I can show you right here. Down here at the bottom, it says extra battery. Nothing shows up in there. And also just now got me thinking is if you are using either one of these with a big expansion battery, it kind of works out pretty good because if you're trying to like lower your bill or, you know, run certain parts of your house off grid or, you know, something for like a battery backup or even time of use, I mean, you can go inside the app and set all that up, you know, just as you normally would with one of these. And, you know, you just got a huge battery backup, which is awesome. Yeah, I guess there's so many different things that you can do inside the app whenever you run one of these. It's kind of crazy now that I'm thinking about it. There's all sorts of stuff that you can do in here. Okay, anyway, yeah, that's pretty much it. And what I wanted to answer was it's not going to show up as an expansion battery. Alrighty, well, there you go. That's going to be my testing for the WattCycle expansion battery cable. No need to cobble together your own DIY version like I did here. I don't know, probably 2.5, maybe 3 years ago. You don't have to do this anymore, even though these do work. Now you can just buy the cable, which I'm really surprised that nobody else has actually made one of these for sale that I've seen quite yet. So good job, WattCycle, for coming out with an expansion battery cable that actually works. All right, so these are basically 70 bucks online, but since they have come out, I think they've gone on sale twice. So if you're not interested at 70 bucks, just wait, you know, a couple of weeks or whatever, and I'm sure they will go on sale again. Of course, if you're interested, I'm going to have affiliate links down below, along with some affiliate links for their server rack batteries, which are just as fantastic as this cable. All right, I think that's pretty much it. I mean, it does work great with both of these units, even though it's not technically for this unit, but it does work. You will have to get one of these smart generator adapters, and these are kind of hard to find. I looked on the EcoFlow website and I couldn't actually find them. So I don't know if they're just out or if maybe they just don't carry it anymore. But if I can find it, I'll put a link to this down below as well, just in case you're wanting to experiment like I did. But it does work just fine with one of these as well. The only other thing that I can mention is if you are using it with something that it's not technically rated for, I would probably stick to 3800 watts. That'll get you right around the 50 amp that they have this cable rated for. If you use one of the smaller guys, you're not going to have any problems whatsoever, even though I didn't have any problems with that one whatsoever either. And the last thing I could say is just be aware that whenever you're using it, either one, and you have it connected up to another battery, the battery percent state of charge is going to be different. But whenever it gets to the very bottom, it's basically going to drain out. It's going to drain out all the way down to 0% state of charge before it shuts off. And same thing for charging it. It will charge it all the way up to 100% on both the power station and the battery, which is fan-freaking-tastic. That is pretty much all I got. If anybody has any questions, comments, or concerns, make sure you put those down in the comment sections. If I completely missed something or just blew over something, make sure you put those down there as well so I can, you know, learn for future videos. And then finally, if anybody thought this video was helpful, make sure you like that smash button on your way out because it does help. And I will see you on the I'm going to put the bonus feature at the very end because I guess most people don't really watch to the very end. So if you made it to this far, congratulations. I was going to show you my cobbled together DIY cable that I made. This one was technically for the EcoFlow alternator charger. I made this so I could plug this into it, and then on the other end, you can put whatever end you want on there. And I can charge up basically any battery that I want. Charge one of these up, I could charge up basically anything that I want. I wasn't stuck to any particular portable power station or battery. Okay, so I don't know how well you're gonna be able to see this. All right, so on this side, I just kind of cobbled together some pieces from XT150 connectors. And on the inside, yeah, you're not going to be able to see it very well. There's like some high power banana plugs in there. Yeah, I can't get it to focus in there. On the inside of here is basically high power banana plugs, very similar to this one right here. The reason I came up with this little design and not using the XT150 plug right here, because these don't actually fit in here very well. I'm sure you could shove it in there, but you might end up ruining some things. So I didn't use these. I used some high power banana plugs like this. The reason I came up with this style of design is because an old battery tester charger that I had, it actually used some high power banana plugs just like this. So I just went on Amazon and found some of these because these do fit inside the XT150 on the portable power stations and on the EcoFlow alternator charger. And that's how I made this little contraption right here. I've got my banana plugs on the inside. These little cases are from the XT150s. I use those because you can basically clip them together, and that's where I came up with my spacing and all that kind of stuff. Yeah, you can just clip all these together, and that's how I came up with my version right here, okay? One other thing I was gonna mention real quick, with this cable right here and them using like a 1000 ohm resistor, that's basically how EcoFlow kind of does all their cables and how their portable power stations know that something or something different is connected to the power stations. Very similar to the XT60s, the eye plugs that have that third pin on there. The orange XT60 eye plugs that has that third pin right there. A lot of people think it's a ground, a ground pin or whatever, but it isn't. With the lower power items, like something that you'd plug into your cigarette lighter, that third pin is going to be connected to the positive, and what that lets the power station know is that it is like a low amp socket. So don't pull too much power from that socket because you could end up blowing fuses in your car. But you can have the same cable that has the MC4s on it. It'll look just like this. However, that pin will be connected to the negative side, okay? And that lets the power station know that we can basically full send and it'll be just fine. The other thing with that is on the Delta Pro Ultras, they do the same thing with these connectors or cables right here. Same thing with those pins inside is they have a different ohm on a certain pin, and that lets it know that we have an EV charger connected up to it. Or we use a different ohm or pin combination and it lets it know that we have a generator hooked up. Okay, that's all they're doing is just different ohms in different pins. I think technically you can use just a piece of wire, but most people will use a resistor. And I'll show you that real quick. I do have a 1000 ohm resistor right here, and we'll plug it into the back and I'll show you how it works. Okay, first thing I was gonna do is just show you if we check these back here, we're not going to get any voltage out of those whatsoever, okay? But if we add the resistor between this hole and this upper hole on the right side, it'll turn them on basically. So we will just shove those in here, if I can get them in there, and we will check those one more time. And boom, there we go. We got 52.8 volts. And that's what WattCycle has done with their cable right here, is they made a professional looking plug right here. I would imagine they're gonna have a resistor in here somewhere, and it allows you to, basically use any battery that you want, which is fan-freaking-tastic. And no need to cobble together a cable like I did and run the risk of damaging, your portable power station or basically anything that you're trying to plug into. This makes it super, super easy. With mine, you basically have to make sure, and that's what I did with the red and black, of course, you have to make sure you're plugging it in correctly. And then the last thing I was gonna mention is I did get a comment on my short video that I made on this cable just a few days ago. Somebody asked if you could do this with the EcoFlow Delta Pro Ultra. My answer would probably be yes. You just have to figure out which pins allow you to hook up an expansion battery. That's basically it. Maybe I'll get time to mess around with that. I don't know. We'll see. All right, bonus feature done.